So one of Mississippi's strangest stories is now a 3-part series on Netflix. The studio that's behind Tiger King just released a new series on Paul Kevin Curtis, the Elvis impersonator and conspiracy theorist from Tupelo who is framed for trying to unalive President Obama. And I'm not gonna lie, I just watched the trailer and this looks insanely good. I haven't had a chance to watch the actual show yet, but I plan to binge it this weekend. If you're unfamiliar with the story, it took place about 11 years ago and centers around 2 men from Tupelo. One of the men, Paul Kevin Curtis, was a part-time Elvis impersonator who believed he'd stumbled onto a black market organ smuggling ring that was being run out of his local morgue. And it gets crazier. He wasn't shy about sharing this theory. He would write letters to Mississippi leaders telling them about it. He said that he was writing a novel about this, and he posted all kinds of stuff online about it. None of this did wonders for his reputation. So when the White House started receiving letters that contained trace amounts of rice, plus messages that made it look like he was the one sending them, it didn't take long for law enforcement to track him down. So very soon after, Curtis is driving along with his pet dog, who is named Moo Cow, I kid you not, when he finds his SUV surrounded by federal agents. Only Curtis is incredibly confused because he's not the one that sent those letters. As he's sitting in the interrogation room with the federal agents, he's also mishearing what they're saying, and he thinks that they're talking about actual rice. And he keeps telling them, "Why are you asking me about rice? I don't even eat rice." And this leads the federal agents to think that he's just absolutely off his rocker. But when they raid his home, they find no trace of anything tying him to the crime, and ultimately he's cleared. But that then leaves the question, who did send the letters? That someone else, a man named J. Everett Duchka, was a local karate instructor / home video enthusiast who for some reason had decided that Curtis was his arch nemesis. And for years, the two had this back and forth feud that started online, but eventually spilled over into real life, involving things like possibly arson. It's also worth mentioning that this was around the time that a circus elephant was hit by a drive-by pew-pewing in Tupelo, so people there probably had no idea what to think. The feud eventually culminated in Duchka sending these letters in question to the White House. He sent them to Senator Roger Wicker, and he sent them to a state judge, and he included letters in them to make it look like they'd been sent by Curtis. Now, Duchka has since been sentenced for his role in all this, but not before temporarily dropping his guilty plea in order to go on a 30-minute rant in the courtroom in which he expressed his absolute hatred for Curtis and compared him to Barney the dinosaur. Thankfully, the karate instructor is now locked away safely. When I tell you that this just barely scratches the surface of how strange this story is, please believe me. One of the investigators even said that it was the most outlandish thing that he has experienced in his entire career. There's also way too much to try to cram into one video, but thankfully there's now a 3-part series you can watch instead. Again, it's called Kings of Tupelo. It's streaming right now on Netflix, and if nothing else, it's a perfect response for if anybody ever says Mississippi is boring.